Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of The Inciting Incident. I'm your host, Tim Shields. Before we get started, to stay on top of all the information about who's going to be on the shows and my new book and all that stuff, please sign up at The Real Tim Shields, etc. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, my next guest, Jenna Phillips Ballard, I was introduced to by the great Steve Carlisle at Two Market Media in New York City. And although we've never met in person, we've talked quite a bit. And that's, I think, because like attracts like and missions attract missions. So let's just jump right into the bio. Jenna Phillips Ballard is a transformational coach, speaker, and entrepreneur dedicated to empowering individuals to unlock their potential and lead fulfilling lives. Now, I'm going to skip how she got into the journey because we're going to get into that. But I will say that in 2006, Jenna launched her career as a certified personal trainer and life coach, working with high-profile clients such as Ben Stiller and Katy Perry. Her expertise led to appearances on television programs such as Dr. Phil and The Doctors. Recognizing a deeper calling, she co-founded the Ascension Leadership Academy in 2016 with her husband, Brad Ballard. Ascension Leadership Academy offers immersive training programs designed to cultivate leadership skills and emotional intelligence. Beyond her coaching endeavors, Jenna is a musician who believes in the transformative power of sound, creating music intended to inspire and elevate listeners, aligning with her mission to raise the planet's frequency. How's it going, Jenna?
It's going so well. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. And yes, very divine. I know that we've been in communication for a really long time, and I'm just always so grateful for connections with new people who have similar visions and similar missions. And it was like an instant connection. You and I, when we first connected, it was more than that. It was like, oh, I know that you're my people. I'm so happy to know you. And it's just been really cool how our relationship has really blossomed. And we've been introduced to other people like through our connection. And so it's just really cool to see the unfolding of life. And I'm just thrilled to be here.
I call it an information grid in the new book. We're both tapping into the same grid. So the first time we talked, I asked you a question that I ask all my guests, and you really surprised me with your inciting incident. So who were you, where were you, and did you have any idea who you wanted to be when you were 17 years old?
Well, I actually had no idea who I wanted to be. I actually questioned my existence, my validity, my relevance. And at this time in my life, I was really navigating a lot of challenges. So much so that I would lay in bed at night and wish that I could witness my own funeral, because the story that I made up was I don't have any friends because I was bullied a lot. I was teased. High school was really rough for me. I think that a lot of people experience that. Middle school, high school was difficult. Kids are mean. Kids are trying to figure out their own relevance and their own purpose and value. And so kind of what can come with that is being not so nice to other kids to kind of really build up your confidence. And so I experienced a lot of that throughout my middle school and high school. And so I got to the place in my awareness, and what I thought was my awareness and who I actually was were these thoughts that I don't matter, I'm not enough. And I thought that these thoughts were real, that I was having these very real and honest and direct conversations with myself. And I didn't understand the concept of ego and self, higher self, law of attraction, manifestation. I knew nothing about that. But I would lay in bed at night and wish that I could witness my own funeral. And in that, I finally reached a place where I decided that I actually didn't want to die, but I wanted to have some kind of a way to receive validation or proof or evidence that people actually, in fact, did care about me, love me, desire me, want me to be around. Because the thought that I was having when I was witnessing my own funeral in my mind was really actually very sad and depressing. And I was like, well, what if I could create something that would actually be very real for me, that I could experience directly? And I would start to obsess about the idea or the concept or the possibility of being in some kind of an accident that would be serious enough for me to be in the ICU. And I was very explicit about that, because I wanted to be there long enough to give people the opportunity to show up in a variety of different ways. And I kept thinking about it. And then I actually was ultimately in an accident. I moved from the house that I remember having these thoughts in to a new house with my new stepdad. My mom, my sister, and I moved into this house with my stepdad and his two daughters.
And
there was
where were you again? Where did you grow up?
This was in Carmel Valley.
Okay.
So really,
okay.
yeah. So we were in the in like this beautiful area that had a barn on the property. We had goats. It was just a really cool experience. And so we had this barn on the property where I'm a senior in high school, and I decided, what should I do to kind of boost my own morale? What should I do to have me feel better? And I'm a total promoter. So I'm like, guys, I'm going to have the party of the year at my house. Everybody's invited. It'll be the Winter Ball after party. And I was expecting like 300 people to show up to this party. And I enrolled my parents in the idea. They said, that's fine, but you got to have everything be in the barn. So I was up in the hayloft with a bunch of my friends, and we were decorating and sweeping and cleaning and hanging sheets and lights on the ceiling. And I was hanging a sheet on the ceiling, and I was walking backwards, and I was looking up at the sheet. And that was the last thing that I remember, because I fell through the opening in the floor, landed 14 feet on concrete on my head. And I was in a coma, instantly unconscious. Still to this day, I don't even remember falling. And I was rushed to the hospital in the ICU, and they were doing all this routine blood work on me. And they discovered that I had type 1 diabetes developing in my body for about 8 months or so. I had no idea. So I caught it early. And I now, understanding the symptoms of high blood sugar, I now understand that what I was experiencing was high blood sugar. It wasn't depression, that in the way that I thought that I was experiencing it. So my body was attempting to communicate with me, but I didn't know what the signals were. So I'm in the hospital, and doctors are breaking it down for my parents and being very specific and very direct. They said, we don't think that Jenna's going to be able to wake up from this coma anytime soon. And when and if she does wake up, she will likely never be the same. So they basically were saying that I was likely going to have permanent brain damage. And they were preparing my parents for the absolute worst case scenario. And the blessing in all of it was I woke up the next day, literally the next day after I fell. I was in a coma for, I think, maybe not even a full 24 hours. But because of that, the swelling in my brain started to go down. But I did actually wake up with brain damage. So I had no short-term memory, no ability to put my thoughts into words. So I was kind of speaking a gibberish language. And I kept forgetting where I was and why I was there. But when I woke up, it was almost like I got this second lease on life. I looked at life through a completely different filter, a completely different lens. And it's like I was almost happy when I woke up from my coma. So it was like my spirit got this upgrade. It was pretty wild.
And what happened from there? I was like getting anxiety just hearing that story.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I wake up from my coma. I'm kind of being reintroduced back into life. And I keep forgetting why I'm there. I'm having a hard time understanding about what happened. My whole body was in a lot of pain because it was a pretty intense fall. Doctors could not figure out how I didn't break my neck, how my brain wasn't basically immersed out of my skull, because it was a pretty far distance. But it was just, I started kind of piecing things together. And so many people showed up to my hospital room that they had to send people away. They had to create a schedule of when people could actually come in because so many people were showing up. I had friends, people who I thought were definitely not my friends, showing up with flowers, people who were kids who were ditching school coming to see me. The bullies even came to see me. And I think that it was just a really eye-opening experience. And I just felt surrounded by so much love. I had people flying in from family members and friends, just flying in from all over the country to come see me. And I felt immersed in such an incredible amount of love that it was just, it's like the universe got me and gave to me what I was asking for, but obviously not in the way that is desirable, because really what the universe wants all of us to know is that we are enough, that we are loved, and love, true love is an inside job, must start with us on the inside. And that's how, when we can beam that love and radiate that love, then we're magnetic, we're dynamic. People want to be around us. It's like we can attract that kind of love into our lives. And so my perception about myself could not have been more wrong. And people just were so happy to be there for me and support me. And it was about I was in the hospital for about a week. And then right before I go home, I remember having, I remember just kind of bits of time, slides of time, for about a year and a half. I don't really remember a lot of stuff happening around this time, but I remember chunks of time here and there. And this one isolated incident that I remember right before I left the hospital, And I will never forget this moment because of how I felt in the moment. And so what the doctor was saying to my mom was, we really think it's going to be very, very stressful for Jenna to even attempt to graduate from high school on time. So she shouldn't even try. And if you want me to do something, just tell me I can't do it. So I remember in that moment feeling like, can I cuss on this podcast? Is that allowed? Am I allowed?
Say whatever the fuck you want, as I always say.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, you don't know me. I was like, watch me do it. I am going to graduate on time. I was like, who is this guy? And so I just felt this burning sensation in my core. I felt this determination, and I was like committed to proving him wrong. But really it wasn't about making him wrong. It was more so about proving to myself that I could do it. And prior to this time in my life, I was ditching school all the time. I wasn't doing my homework, wasn't applying myself. I was smoking weed every day, going to school stoned, leaving at any break, any lunch, any recess, and smoking weed and smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol and taking pain meds with the alcohol. So I was self-medicating. And I just, it was like I got this fresh start where I just stopped all of that and went back to school. I was at home for a couple of weeks. So I missed about 3 weeks of school total. When I got home, my parents bring me into my room, and my whole room was covered in banners and just these big, huge butcher paper, massive chunks of love. And the whole school had basically signed this banner, and basically little messages like, Jenna, we miss you. We love you. Can't wait to see you. Get better soon. We miss your smile. Come back to school soon. And I was like, what the heck? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually really loved and people really do care about me. And there were flowers all over my room and stuffed animals and balloons. And so I just felt this overwhelming sense of love and appreciation and acceptance and belonging. And that's what I'd always wanted. But the work that I've done over the years, I realized that the reason why I didn't fit in is because I was not supposed to fit in, because I'm a leader, because I'm not of the masses. And so of course I wasn't going to fit in. Of course I wasn't going to blend. Of course people weren't going to accept me as status quo and what everybody else is doing, because I wasn't. I was nothing like anybody else. So, but I digress. So I'm at home, and then I go back to school. The marquee said, welcome back, Jenna Phillips. And I just had so much support, and I didn't miss a single day of school the rest of the year. I applied myself. I studied. I did my homework. And my homework, my rehabilitation of my brain were simple tasks like unscramble this 4-letter word. So I had therapy where I had to go to therapy, and the therapist would say things like, tell me how to make spaghetti. And it was very difficult for me and to take people through the steps of that. So put water in a pot, put the pot on the oven, turn it all the way up to high, and make sure that you're, adding some salt, and then boil the water. That's easy for us. Like any of us can do, but it was very difficult for me. And so I remember feeling so frustrated because it was like I could see it in my mind, but I couldn't explain it step by step. And then I had to unscramble 4-letter words. So like the word park was all mixed up, and I had to rearrange the letters so that it would spell the correct word. And so I remember looking at this paper and feeling the difficulty in that, the frustration, and just like, oh, this is so hard. I know it should be easy, but I was determined. I was determined to strengthen that part of my awareness and my consciousness and the intellectual part of my brain all over again. So I just was so diligent. I graduated from high school on time with the highest GPA that I'd ever had. And that's where I really developed the muscle of what it means to be resilient, what it means to apply yourself, and what it means to move beyond barriers. And so because of that, because of the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes, and because of me overcoming that challenge, I really fell in love with fitness, because I really got to take my health to a whole other level and got really into fitness and nutrition and all of that. And I wound up being a personal trainer, became a personal trainer at the age of 23. And my first private client was Ben Stiller. And the rest is history.
How did that happen? I have a bunch of other questions. Actually, before we get to Ben Stiller, you may have already touched on it when you said leadership, but the smoking weed, the ditching school, etc. Do you think that was a failure of the education system? Because there's so many like creative kids that they try to get, the system pushes them into a little box, but they are creatives, they're dreamers, they're etc. So I'm just curious.
I think that the public education system is an absolute dumpster fire as it is. I think that the development of leaders is not the primary intention for our public education system. I think that the most important things that we ought to learn and as we are developing and becoming, grown-ups and human beings in our own person is not taught to us, i.e. how to balance our checkbook, how to invest in things, how to save your money, how to manage your money, how to manage your emotions. I mean, emotional intelligence is literally the most important thing for us as human beings to be able to even understand what that means. And it's just really difficult. It's difficult in middle school and high school. And I think that there's a huge miss not creating some kind of a curriculum-based experience where people really get to understand what it means to be a leader, what it means to be emotionally intelligent, what it means to be in contribution. Because it's as I look back on my experience in the public education system, it's almost like they're trying to produce as many rule-following factory workers as possible.
100%.
And to like just get them to be thrown into the system and be dependent upon the system and not be a sovereign, independent, confident, outrageous leader. That's not what the public education system is creating. And so I think that there was a lot. I mean, I also, my parents were getting divorced right around this time. My parents divorced when I was 16. So there was also a lot of challenges at home for me. And I think that I didn't have the right kind of discipline to make sure that I was making the right choices. And I also wasn't exposed to, leadership opportunities. I didn't have a consistent experience of being out in front of people where I was stepping into my leadership and being responsible and honorable as a human being, and I think that that's a huge miss to not teach that to kids.
Yeah. There's one thing I want to point out, because it's happened, countless times in my life, but twice that I think of off the bat, but your thoughts were a self-fulfilling prophecy. You wanted this experience. And of course, the universe always delivers it in a way that you never could have imagined. I had a full ride to college for soccer to a top 20 D1 school. And I hated my coach. And I used to say out loud, I wish I could just keep my scholarship and not have to play. And then I was injured for 3 out of 4 years. And then, April 1st, 2013, April Fool's Day, not so funny. My house burned down. And I looked back in my journal, in my gratitude and intention journal, and all these things happened. Like, I want my sister to come visit. I want, to manifest a big amount of money. And of course, my loss was greater than my insurance policy. So I just got this $25,000 check. But I think it's really important for people to realize the power of their mind to actually create their reality. I just wanted to point that out. So fitness, Ben Stiller, how does that happen?
Yeah. So I just lightly want to just address what you just said. You very much so know that I was injured Monday night. I sliced my foot open with broken glass. And I actually talked about this in my stories because I was like, I now realize how I've manifested this injury because the night, right all day on Monday, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do tomorrow and I don't have a lot of time. Holy moly, I have all these things that I got to take care of and I just don't have the time. And so instead of managing it and doing something about it and rearranging my schedule in a way that felt more spacious and whatever, I was injured Monday night. I woke up Tuesday. I couldn't walk. I then had to go to urgent care and get stitches and all this stuff. So I wound up canceling a lot of these appointments that it's just, if we don't take action on the things that we want in the way that we want to experience it, the universe is going to handle it for us. But oftentimes it's in a way that is not desirable because that's also a judgment too, right? The universe is just going to handle it. Every event is neutral. But to us, we have a more desirable way to handle the things. And so it really is up to us to just take action on the things that we want, rather than waiting for an accident to be that kind of an interruption. So you're absolutely right, 100%. And I'm remembering that right now as I'm standing on one foot so I can be at my standing desk. So I was in, and again, this leads into my whole experience with Ben Stiller. I was in this relationship with a guy in my early 20s, and he was very controlling, and he was emotionally abusive in the way that he was very jealous, and he would say things that I was always walking on eggshells because I didn't want to piss him off. I didn't want to get him upset. I didn't want him to think that if I just so happened to look a certain way, and my glance happened to like bounce off the face of a person who happened to be a man, not a woman, that I was not going to get in trouble. So it was just a very interesting relationship. And so I would lay in bed at night. And at this point, I'd been a certified personal trainer for 1 month. I started working as a receptionist at Sebastian Legree's very first studio that ever existed in West Hollywood. And now there's like, I feel like hundreds of studios all over the world. It was pretty crazy to watch his business completely blow up in the best way. But I went there to start working as a receptionist. He totally took me under his wing, and I became his protege. He trained me. He fast tracked me. My classes were filling up, and I really loved it. I found my passion in that, because fitness was my life, but I was like, oh, I actually get to make this my career. Like, how cool is that? So I would lay in bed at night living in this shoebox of an apartment with my boyfriend. And at the time, I didn't have the funds or the capital or the money or the cash to move out on my own. And so I felt very trapped. And I was like, I just need an exit, universe. I just need an exit. I need an exit. I need an exit. And then one day, Sebastian comes to me and he says, hey, do you want to go on location for 4 months and train Ben Stiller for a night at the museum? Because he was Ben Stiller's personal trainer at the studio. And then Ben was leaving and he asked Sebastian to go with him, but he has a family. He's got the business, the studio to run. He's like, I can't leave, but you're my best trainer. And I was like, I've only been doing this for a month. And he's like, I know what you're thinking, but I want you to know that it's your energy. It's who you are that is going to get him in the best shape, because it's like, I can see it already just being an amazing match. So I was like, yes. And I didn't tell my boyfriend for many weeks because I knew how he was going to respond to that. I finally told him when I literally had to tell him, because I was going to be gone. We're going to be in New York for a month and then in Vancouver for like 3 months. And he was, as I expected him to be, very upset, thought that it was something that was going to happen to him or to the relationship versus something that was happening for me. He wasn't happy for me. He could have come to visit me. You know, it's just like crazy, crazy jealousy. So
that's a big thing in relationships, making it about you as opposed to this is something for me.
Right. Exactly. So it just was a beautiful thing. I mean, I moved all my things out. I went to New York and and at the time I was 23 and I was making $1,700 a week with zero bills. And I just was living my best life and completely just taking care of myself and like was doing all this research on different kinds of foods and supplements. And I did all the shopping I wanted to do. Like, it was just a beautiful time to just really be with myself. And it catapulted my career because I got him in the best shape of his life and we became really good friends. And it was just a great time. You know, I started training Jeremy Piven, the founders of Guess, the Marciano family for like 8 years, Saudi Arabian royalty, Mark Hoppus from Blink-182. I was in charge of all the food for the Blink-182 reunion tour. And like, I got to like approve of all the snacks and make sure that they were, you know, eating well and all that. So it was just a really cool journey for me. Like I started to really understand the power of manifestation, the power of intention, and also the power of our energy as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump forward to something. And when I was about 33, I had a relationship and a job end in the same week. And I was like, maybe life's trying to tell me something. And this girl's like, I need time and space. And I disappeared for like 5 days. And then she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I just bought a one-way ticket to Tanzania. I'm going to work at an orphanage. And I saw I was doing a little research on you that you worked at an orphanage in Mexico. And then you also did some other work in Africa. So what brought you to the orphanage in Mexico and what was that like?
I had a friend who was doing a lot of work. This is when I was living in I believe I was still living in Los Angeles before I moved to San Diego, before we opened up ALA, Ascension Leadership Academy in San Diego. And she was telling me she was going down to Mexico and working with these kids who had all basically been rescued from sex trafficking, either turned over by their parents to have them be in a safer environment, or they were literally rescued from sex trafficking. And so I was like, oh, I just would love to go do that with you. And, let me back up. So I'd already experienced a deep passion, a deep love for doing that kind of work. I think I was like 25, 26. I wound up being invited to be the ambassador for Nourish the Children, which is a nonprofit organization underneath the umbrella of New Skin, which is they're a multi-level marketing company. They've been around for decades and decades and decades. And I got invited to be an ambassador for the organization. And I flew over there. We were in Malawi. We also went to Zambia. I also got to experience South Africa, and it was just a really incredible time. And like, this is when this is before I ever did legitimate emotional intelligence, somatic work, leadership trainings. And it was really having this experience that completely cracked my heart open. Because I remember we were going to these villages that didn't have food. Like they had a shortage of food, which is like, obviously I can't even, to even imagine that reality is just, it was really intense. I couldn't fathom it. Right. And then going to these villages and the organization, Nurse to Children, they would make these bags made with this kind of like this powder that like corn and all these different kind of grains and vitamins and nutrients blended up. And then you mix it with hot water and then you have a meal. And so each bag had like 30 meals or something like that. And so we would deliver the amount of bags that were donated per village, and we would deliver them. And just, we were received by this tribe, by these communities. And it was just so beautiful. And they were so grateful and so happy and appreciative. And my experience of joy in these children when they're literally playing with like an empty water bottle on a stick, like they got the stick inside the water bottle, they're making noise and they're having fun. And like, that's their toy, and I remember one kid had like a shoe, not two shoes, but like one shoe, and walking around, like just living his best life. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do we just have it all wrong? And I'm watching the joy and the connection and the sense of community. And it really just opened my eyes. It really opened my heart to the power of leadership and contribution and being in service. And I just got so addicted. I got so addicted to that feeling of being able to be in contribution and support. And so it just was such a beautiful expansion for my soul and my heart. And then when I got back from that trip, I found myself in a series of emotional intelligence trainings. And it was also kind of like through that where I met the woman who was doing a lot of work across the border, just over the border, just south of the Mexican-American border, United States border. And she was going to this orphanage, and I was like, I want to be a part of that. Like, can I? And she's like, yes, definitely come with me sometime. And so I got to go down there and meet the kids. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful time. I think I went down there a couple times, and, yeah, I'll never forget it. And then I actually went back to Africa again, went to Tanzania specifically to drill clean water wells in a variety of different villages. And that was also just extraordinary, incredible.
That's where I was. I was in Tanzania, and I found that the poorest people in the world are some of the most generous people in the world. Mm-hmm. And it was, I'm actually like getting a little choked up thinking about it. I really bonded with these kids. And I remember when I was leaving, these kids were like hugging my legs, like gathered around me, like, please don't leave, please don't leave. And I held it together and I drove away in the Land Cruiser, and I was just bawling in the back of the Land Cruiser. It was pretty profound. I feel like every high school, like it's very common in Europe, but I have some friends whose kids are going to high school now. And I feel like every high school kid should take a year off and go volunteer or go explore, because so many people that go to college, it's just like they do it because it's expected. And then they wind up partying because they don't really know what they want to do, because they've never created that space in their life to figure out what they want to do. But tell me about your emotional intelligence training. How did that come about? What is it? What do you do?
Yeah, I love that question. I think that I got to the place in my career where I was like, training all these celebrities is not as cool as it used to be. And I just started to feel like it was lackluster. I wasn't experiencing the passion and the excitement and the joy and like the urgency and the like jumping out of bed every morning and pumped to go work with my clients. It started to feel like a job. And I'm like, this is not my passion anymore. And so I wound up manifesting the opportunity to go through a series of trainings. A friend of mine had gone through a series of trainings and she was talking about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. So I went into my very first one and I had all these judgments about it. I was like, I could probably teach the course. I've done everything that there is. I've done a ton of work. I've read all these books. I've gotten on stage. I've spoken about like all these different things. Like I literally believe that I could teach it because of all these other experiences that I'd had. So I go into the training and I'm like, oh my God, I could not have been more wrong about what this is. And it was just an incredible eye-opening experience for me because I got to see my perspective of myself and also understand the perspective of me in other people. And I got radical feedback. I got to give radical feedback. It was a powerful, confrontational, interruptive process and also very healing. It was like 10 years of therapy in one weekend. I mean, it was incredible.
What did it interrupt for you?
What it interrupted for me was the belief that I'm not enough, and that I felt like I needed to prove my enoughness through my results and through my doingness. And I was also at this time consistently looking for my romantic partner. I was like, where's my person? Where's my person? Where's my person? And that kind of energy is very masculine. And so I was finding myself in these relationships with, feminized men, or men who were in their unhealed masculine, or just every relationship that began ultimately ended. And I'm like, what is the deal? I just keep picking the wrong guys, versus realizing, which I finally did realize, was like, oh, I am the lowest common denominator. I'm the most common thing in all these relationships. There must be something about me that I get to really start to get curious about. And so I finally discovered that my biggest power is actually in my vulnerability, and also my feminine grace. And I never felt safe in that. I made crying, emotions, vulnerability, intimacy wrong. Like I made it weak. And it was kind of in that awareness. I was like, oh my God, I get to be found by an incredible man who's going to love, honor, cherish, and respect me. And I shifted my whole ways of being around that. And literally 3 days after I graduated from this process, Brad found me on Match.com, and he pursued me, and he went after me, and he courted me, and now we have this extraordinary life together, and 2 kids, and this awesome business. And so I enrolled him into the trainings because I was very clear that this was going to be my path. This was my life. I wanted to do this work because I believe that our purpose is always the same, but the vehicle that we use to fulfill and live our purpose is going to change many, many times. So once upon a time, I used to motivate and inspire people to be all that they can possibly be through fitness. And I would do it on podcasts, and I would do it on, speaking on stage. But I'm like, I want to get into the DNA and the limiting beliefs about people, fundamentally support them in claiming their life from a place of ownership and responsibility, so that they can in turn be leaders and in contribution to humanity. And so it's always been my vision for people. And it just started to shift and evolve into a whole new way. And so I really wanted to be developed in this process. And he was very resistant at first. It's not his fault. I mean, I was being very ineffective at explaining it to him, because I was like, this is my person, and I don't want to fuck it up. And so I was kind of like tiptoeing and just like lightly talking about it. But then I got to the place of, all right, I'm done waiting. I want to be, developed as a coach. I want to be developed as a trainer in this work. And I said, if you're not willing to at least be a student, I'm going to outgrow you, and that's not going to work for me. And he's like, got it. And he went to the next one. And then I started my development process, and then he graduated as a student, and then we started becoming coaches together. And then we were developed at the highest level that you could possibly be at the center. And the next only logical thing for us to do was to open up our own center, because we noticed that there were just some things that were different, not that we're better or whatever, but just kind of out of alignment with our personal values and the kind of leadership that we wanted to develop and the kind of people we wanted to coach. And so, we created our own center. We moved to San Diego so we wouldn't compete with our mentor. And what we thought was going to be a really nice little ripple effect became a fucking massive tidal wave of transformation. And while we were in San Diego, we were there for like 4.5 years. I think that we had like 4,500, like 4,500, no, excuse me, 2,500 students go through our process. And then COVID shut us down, and we found black mold in our house. And so there were a lot of reasons why we wound up moving, but it's just been great because we moved here to Austin, Texas, and it's just been a continuation of our impact. And we've now had over 4,000 students attend. And it's just humming. It's great. It's been a really, really fun process.
That's wild. Before we get into what Ascension Leadership Academy is, what do you think can you define the unhealed masculine? Actually, let's do both, the unhealed masculine and the unhealed feminine.
Yeah. The unhealed masculine is a need to prove, at any and all costs, unwillingness to be present and an ownership. It's just blasting through, bodies in your count, always needing to prove. It's never enough. No matter how much you do, it's just like go, drive, push, and which creates burnout. And so it's like, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that experience that. They're in their unhealed masculine. They won't open their hearts. They're afraid to be seen. They're afraid to emote. They're, afraid to look bad. like their ego and their image are so important for their survival. And it's just like, it's just literally never enough. Like no result is ever enough. No woman is ever enough. No anything is ever going to be enough. It's just always wanting to consume more, and like push through, drive through. And
before we move to the feminine, what is the antithesis of that, or how do you heal that?
Well, I think that to experience polarity, to experience the opposite of that, to experience what it means to emote, what it means to cry and have your heart be seen, for you to allow love in, for you to know that you are more than enough. There's nothing to prove. And to also just make powerful decisions and to be able to have short bursts of energy to like, get the shit done and then set the fucking armor down, like put the sword down, and then being able to transition into your feminine, which is waiting. And the healed feminine is to be in patience, to be in an allowance, to attract, to receive, like if you think about women are literally designed to receive. It is the most natural thing for women, is to be filled up, to be given into, and we make it so wrong. Like we won't ask for support. So it's this, the unhealed feminine is this like damsel in distress. Like I can't make up my mind. I can't choose. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who I am. And I'm not enough unless and it's just this, and I'll experience this a lot in the spiritual community. You'll ask somebody to make a decision or like collaborate or like do a business thing or whatever. And the unhealed feminine is, I'm just going to just sit and just be with that for 2 weeks and bathe my crystals in the moonlight, and I'll get back to you maybe someday, never. It's like,
exactly.
Make up your fucking mind. Like literally just trust yourself. You're connected to source at all times. Give it a day and then get back to me, So I think that there's an opportunity for leaders to really create that balance in their leadership, where they like to trust yourself, to remember that you were infinitely always connected to source, to tap into the highest version of yourself, to trust the physical sensations that we have in our bodies. That is the most powerful way to remember who we are and also who we're not. Our ego is going to always be communicating to us. When we've got these thoughts that we think are real, or we're just being honest with ourselves and nobody knows us more than we know ourselves. And we're like, you're a worthless piece of shit. You're an imposter. You're a fraud. Don't you dare take that risk. Don't you dare do something that you wouldn't typically do. Don't you dare get out of your comfort zone. Like that, when we feel those sensations in our bodies that have us want to retract and not take a risk and not be bold and not be brave and courageous, like that's the function of our ego, which is literally just there to protect our inner child. And so I think that it's an opportunity for leaders specifically who are wanting to expand and grow and have a bigger impact. You've got to be willing to get outside that comfort zone. You got to be willing to do something you've never done before. You've got to be willing to see yourself in a way that you've never seen yourself before. And so doing work like what we have at Ascension Leadership Academy provides this vast opportunity for people to see themselves from the inside out and the outside in, and also proclaim radical responsibility for their life, and then start to create insane results because they're vibrating at the frequency of what's true for them. Because it's so easy to get consumed by these expectations of society and our culture, and like, oh, I need to do this in order to feel acclaimed or successful or, whatever. And so we just get in this cycle of, it's never enough no matter how much I do. I'm not enough. And then we're like, but I'm an imposter. I can't take this action because I'm a fraud. And that whole information that we allow ourselves to consume internally is really just, it's in response to like the mass media, the social media, the stuff that we're consuming all the time. And so like when I think about the healed masculine, like when Brad is in his healed masculine, how I feel is totally safe in his presence, in such a way that I don't have to manage all the things. If he's in his kind of unhealed masculine, and he's also, which kind of creates like also his unhealed feminine as well, there's just like this complete imbalance in him, then I feel like I need to like double down on the doingness in our household. I need to double down on the doingness in my business. I need to go out and chase and find clients because of whatever. And we've had multiple seasons of that, but it's like we're in such a good spot now where this is just constant practice, constant evolution of our relationship, where we are always just checking in with each other and really like doubling down on our personal responsibility to show up as a balanced, sovereign, fulfilled, happy individual. It's not his responsibility to fill me up. And it's also not my job to make him happy. It's just like, we got to make sure that we are attuning to ourselves so that we can show up wholly as ourselves for each other.
I think that is the most important thing, because so many people, including myself, I've had a lot of relationships and a lot of ones that didn't go too well, but you're looking for somebody to fulfill yourself, but you have to fulfill yourself. You have to fill yourself up first.
Right.
What about, so have you always been a musician, or is this something that just kind of arose?
Yeah. I mean, like my desire came to life when I was 6. I had the vision of becoming a singer performer. I created a band called the Burning Logs, which was super on brand because I lived in a mountain town. And I came to my parents. I'd written a couple songs, and I was trying to, in the like worst possible moment, tell them about my excitement, because they were busy, they were cooking, they were in the kitchen, they were distracted, they were not like, they could not possibly in that moment have given me, and they probably could have made the choice to do it, but it was just bad timing. I wasn't really present to that. Now as a parent, I fully have massive compassion for that moment for my parents. But they were super busy, and I said, hey, I started a band called the Burning Logs, and I'm going to read you some of my songs. And so what they didn't do is stop and say, oh, Jenna, honey, that is amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Tell me about your band. Tell me about your process. Tell me about your songs. I cannot wait. And so I just kind of go right into then reading the songs, and they're not stopping, pausing to pour into me. And my love language is words of affirmation. And so I didn't get what I needed in the moment. And I made up the story that they don't get me. They don't see me. This is a stupid idea. Never mind.
How old were you?
And so I basically 6.
Okay. Isn't that funny how many wounds come from our childhood?
Yes.
They're the core wounds. They're the core wounds. And then we're trying to we're moving into them. We're getting triggered by them until you have the awareness to disentangle them.
Exactly. So I move that vision to the side, and then I get into like all these other things. And like, no matter what celebrity I worked with, no matter what princess from Saudi Arabia I was training, like literally it was never enough. And so I really got to discover my enoughness by going through these trainings, and also my values and my non-negotiables and what I stand for and what my principles are. And so that was hugely life-changing for me. And then anyway, fast forward, Ascension Leadership Academy has now been open for 9 years, but it was sometime last year that I had finished my very first 4-track EP. So it was 4 songs, but these songs were something that I had created when I was pregnant with my very first son. I wanted to create a 4-week abundance course for women 5 weeks before I was due, because I had all this creativity moving through me. And I basically spoke into a mic and just channeled and closed my eyes, didn't practice, no notes, just spoke all the way through. And then basically like just had these, and I had music made to go with what came through me. So I channeled these songs, and I had a producer put music with the vocals. And I was like, wow, like these songs are great. But I really, when I was pregnant again, about like 3 or 4 years ago, I said, I really want to make these songs Spotify worthy. Like the songs are great. Like the content is good, but I want the songs to feel like Odessa vibes, where people are listening and you're going on a journey, and it's powerful and it's transformational just by listening. And so I worked for 2 years back and forth with the producer, and we finally landed on the cohesive sound about how we wanted it to be. And so I thought this was going to be the extent of my music. I just, because I've had this belief my whole life that I can't sing. And so I finished the 4-track EP, had an album release party last year, a little over a year ago. And it was like a big, huge Beyonce moment for me. My whole community showed up. It was awesome. And I got a very, very clear message from Spirit during a plant medicine ceremony last year that I get to go all in on my passion, on my music and my I Am brand. And I was like, oh God, okay. And because Spirit also said that Brad and I were the bottleneck at ALA. And we were so hands-on with so many aspects of our business because we care so much. And we're committed to like the excellence and the integrity and the facilitation and all of it. And then we wound up bringing on a team and training them up, and then created so much space for us to go all in on our passions. And our business doubled in a matter of 9 months, like literally than the previous year of sales. So it was pretty extraordinary to watch that happen, because the universe was like, just, you don't need to do all the things, and you get to go all in on the thing that fills you up more than anything else. And so I wound up manifesting a manager who managed Miley Cyrus for 10 years because I gave myself permission to go all in on that. And she was like, I would love to manage you. I'd love to represent you. Have you ever thought about being a singer? And I said, I can't sing. And she said, I can develop you. You just got to be open and let me build the team around you. And so I trusted her. I borrowed her courage because she saw something in me that I could not see. And I started training my voice back in November of 2024 with Justin Timberlake's vocal coach. And I was working with all these songwriters. I've written 9 songs now. In February, just a few months ago, I wound up recording my very first single as a singer-songwriter, the song called Alchemist.
I've heard it. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's obviously the song that we're talking about, the event that you couldn't be at, which is perfect and all amazing. But I felt your love and I felt you being there in spirit. And it was incredible because I felt so alive and free in performing that song because I've practiced it a million times in my car, in my office, listening to the song on repeat,
in the shower,
everywhere. And nothing can prepare you for actually doing the thing, right? Like we can hypothetically practice, but it's not singing in my car, singing in my shower, in my office is not the same thing as getting on stage in front of X amount of people and just doing it. And that's the thing that most people never actually want to confront is the fear that they experience in the leaping of that faith, taking on that risk, being bold. And so, I was a little bit nervous before I went on, but anytime I get on stage, if I feel that sensation, the fastest way for me to shift is to ask myself, like, what do I want them to learn? Like, this is not about me. This is about them. What do I want them to leave with? So how I transmute that energy is into focusing out. And then that helps me with the nervousness and all of that. So, but I felt so alive and it was incredible.
Yeah. What is that? I mean, are you, when you're doing that, do you feel like you're connected to something higher? Like, do you feel the energy coming through you?
Absolutely. I felt like a complete channel, a portal. I was there to be in service. And I was joking. I said, like this music is about other people. I was like, and a little bit me. The journey has been a little bit about me too. Just giving myself permission to take center stage and be on stage and be seen and be heard. And that's been very healing for me and also a lot of my childhood wounding as well. But anybody can sing and anybody can be an artist. And there's something that's inside every single one of us that's wanting to be expressed, that's wanting to be experienced. And, I think that the opportunity is really for everybody, for all of you who are listening, there's something inside of you right now that you're afraid of starting, releasing, creating, producing, and ultimately allowing the people of this world, humanity, to experience, because either you don't want to be judged, you feel like it's too late, so why even start? You missed that boat, wasted talent. You're not good enough. You can't possibly ever be good enough to compete with fill in the blank. And there's no such thing as a saturated market. If you are being who you authentically are, you're going to attract the right kind of people for you, for your message, for your art, for your creation. And there are, think about how many billions of people, like how many clients do you need? How many fans do you need? A few hundred clients, a few hundred, like it can be whatever you want. And so just know that there is no such thing as a saturated market. I don't believe in that. I'm starting a podcast this year and anybody can probably say like, oh man, there's so many podcasts out there. Yes. And like I listen to multiple podcasts, it's just somebody's waiting for my message and somebody's waiting for the way that I tell stories and the way that I interview people. And we all have the ability to create whatever it is that we want. I mean, look at my wall back here. This is my vision wall. Yeah. It's not small. I'm just going to turn this a little bit. It's like, wow. It's a gigantic, huge, massive wall. And that's my vision. Like I dream big. I'm unapologetic about it. And every single one of you who are listening, I want you to be in curiosity around what's the thing that you're not allowing yourself to take action on? What are you not allowing yourself to begin because of some limiting belief that you've created for yourself that does not exist in real life?
Yeah, I kind of talk about that a little bit differently in the book, but I call it the soul ache.
Love it.
And it's not something, most of us, I mean, I was doing it for years, like running from it or numbing it, but it's actually your North Star. It's what you're supposed to be moving towards, because that's how you unearth all the gifts and the spiritual lessons and etc. that you're here to learn.
That's right.
I have so many questions, but I want to ask you, what does the I am mean to you? So if I am is your brand, what does I am mean to you?
True abundance is identifying that I am. And I am is the all ever existing presence. It is the creator. Like we are one with the creator. We think that we're separate from God, and we are absolutely a drop of ocean water in the vast ocean that is the universe. And we're not separate. So a drop of ocean water is still the ocean. We're not separate from God. We are one with God. And so I think that people get to come into alignment with what it means to be the all ever existing I am, because all that we are is our consciousness. Like, yes, I'm a woman, but have I always been a woman? I believe in past lives. Am I always going to be a woman? I don't know. I mean, I believe that I've been multiple versions of myself. So I'm a mom, but have I always been a mom? No. I'm a wife, but have I always been a wife? No. Who I always will be is my awareness and my consciousness. The way that we define ourselves is temporary. It's not who we are. But we get so wrapped up in these labels and these titles and these things.
Identities.
Yes. And like, something that can never be damaged. I mean, I was sexually abused when I was 6 and I was raped when I was 29. My awareness was not damaged. My awareness was not abused. My awareness was present to what was happening, but it's my body, this temporary vessel and vehicle that I am inhabiting to carry my spirit forth so that I can live my vision and my purpose. And so we get to just really trust that our ever-knowing, all-encompassing, ever-existing awareness and consciousness is actually who we are. And if we can remember that we're directly connected to Source in any given moment, then we can start to be vibrationally available for the things that we want, whether it's a new level of abundance, romantic relationship, impact, purpose. We want to manifest more opportunities. Okay, great. Are you being the full version of who you authentically are, which is infinitely capable of anything and everything that you desire? If we're going to show up small or limited or not secure or not believing in ourselves, we're not going to manifest incredible, magnificent, extraordinary opportunities to be on stage and to be seen as the wholeness of who we are. And so it's just, we got to know that when we're a vibrational match for who we authentically are, what we're here to cause and create, that's when the opportunities start to flow in. That's when the magic starts to be ever present in your life. And it really just comes down to the belief that we hold, the actions that we take based upon that belief, and to powerfully declare, I am, period. I am. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I am is the observer, is the awareness. And I think that we actually, when you tap into that, you begin to, you're doing it right now, your whole vision board behind you, you are observing your reality into being. And most people.
My logo is right there. Can you see it?
Yes, I can. Yeah. So
that's it. My logo.
You also have, I don't know if it's out or if it's coming out this fall, a book called I Am Her Now. Is that coming out?
Yes, it's coming out. It's coming out with what month? It's May. It was supposed to come out in June, July, but I'm looking at more like July, August. Like it depends. It's an interesting process doing self-publishing, but in case it gets picked up by a publisher, we'll see. Who knows? But it's in. We're going through. We're testing ads for covers and like all that stuff. Like we're doing all those things right now. But yeah, the book basically teaches women how to be the future versions of themselves now. The all-knowing, the ever-present, the all-encompassing, and just remember that we are always connected to the higher self, that version of ourself that we see 5 years from now. We've always been connected to our inner child. Our inner child has never left us. So connecting to that, knowing that, trusting that, embodying that, and then watching your life expand in miraculous ways.
And did you try to go the traditional route, or did you make the intentional choice to self-publish?
I made the intentional choice to self-publish, but there have been some opportunities that popped up for me. Like, I know of an editor. Like I've had multiple people say to me, like, I can get your book published at Hay House. I can get your book published at whatever. So I'm really wanting to get many aspects of it. Like I'm still in the editing phase right now. It's not 100% ready to be released out into the world. Once I finalize those pieces, then I'm going to feel like, ready to like really present it to an actual publisher.
Yeah, we can talk about some of that stuff offline.
Cool. I love it.
But yeah, I actually chose to self-publish my first book because I had a vision for it, and I didn't want anybody to tamper with that vision. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful I did it. I think it's going to be discovered after this next book comes out. But
Sense. Yeah.
but so you are. Where was that question? So you're a mother, a musician, an entrepreneur, a wife. How do you stay tethered to your dream and your vision?
I think that there are seasons um, of experiencing being 100% all in on a variety of things. And you can't be 100% focused on multiple things at the same time. So what I mean by that is I've really become great about blocking out my calendar so that when I've got time with my kids, it's 100% time with my kids. When I've got time during the day when they're at school to focus on things like being on podcasts or managing my social media or practicing my music or whatever, that I'm 100% focused on that. I think that there's been also the opportunity for me to really go all in on my vision with my music came down to me asking my husband for support, to ask him to, because when he got his exotic car club off the ground, I stepped in this as the CEO at Ascension Leadership Academy, and I held that position because he was the CEO. And then I was like, you need to go all in on this thing of yours, this passion. Like, I want you to just really have this be successful. So let me step in as the CEO. I got it. And I really just expanded the business in a lot of really awesome ways. And I'm super proud of the work that I did during my CEO-ship. But then last year I said, I really want to go all in on my passion. Do you have the spaciousness now that Fastlane Drive is off the ground? It's been humming for a couple of years. Can you please step back into the CEO so I can focus on my music? And he said, absolutely. So it's really in the empowering the self to ask for support is like a non-negotiable. Like we all are worthy of support. Moms, wives, women, husbands, dads, people. If you're human, if you're breathing, if you're listening to this, you are worthy of asking for support. We're not meant to do life on our own. We're not meant to, even like I'm in the process of manifesting investors right now for my I Am brand and for my music and all of that. I had a really powerful message from a psychic that I've been experiencing her for about 6 years. And she said, Jenna, honey, she said, this season you get to manifest working capital from investors. And that's challenging all of my childhood wounding stuff that I need to prove that I can do it all on my own. I don't want to have those intimate conversations with people, but I realized I was like, oh, I actually get to provide the opportunity for people to invest in something that's going to be a freaking unicorn company. Like, I literally see it as being $1 billion company that's going to impact people all over the world. With all the things I'm creating, with media meets impact, art meets impact. So I really got to like work through that as well. So I'm in the process of finishing my pitch deck. It's just asking for support and providing people the opportunity to show up for you is really a gift. It's not being a burden on other people.
So you talk a lot about radical self-love. What does that mean? How does somebody start that journey, especially if they've never actually known what it feels like to love themselves?
I mean, I personally don't know of a process more powerful than Ascension Leadership Academy to have people come home to themselves and witness their self-love, their extraordinary greatness, their miraculousness, their potential, their capacity. And this is not about like, I mean, the kind of people that we serve primarily are leaders who have big visions, big missions. They have podcasts, they're authors, they've got companies, they've got massive teams, they're responsible for a lot of people. And it's like, what I consistently see across the board is that they put themselves last. It's like they're so focused on their vision, their mission, their impact, their scaling, their business, their numbers, their quotas, their like all these things. And then they get to realize that they've put themselves last, and then they're wondering why their relationships are not thriving, why they don't have the kind of love that they want to have, why their relationship with their kids is not all that it can possibly be, why they pick themselves apart, why they look at themselves in the mirror and hate every aspect that they see. Oh, I just want to cut that, trim that, shave that, it's the lack of acknowledging the greatness that you are that I see in so many people. And it's almost louder in people who are super successful because of the pressure, because of the nonstop hustle, grind, climb. And then I really want people to realize that the grass is greener right where your feet are. And that's what I see possible for people in their life, is to discover that and to realize their greatness and to claim it and to own it and really start to establish boundaries. I mean, it's the most radical thing you can do. The most radical expression of self-love is to establish boundaries and say, I'm not available for that. This is what I want. If you can't meet me there, it's not going to work. Or being able to enroll people into the place where you are and invite them to be on the journey with you in such a way where it works for everybody. And so that's really the opportunity, is like, as a leader, you get to be willing to invest in yourself consistently. The work is never done. Transformation is never over. We don't have our breakthroughs and then that's it. We are always living our breakthroughs. We're always having our breakthroughs. We're always remembering who we are. We're always stretching into our infinite capacity. It's like the second we stop growing, it's like it's almost like you're collapsing the timeline of when you start to completely lose sense of yourself. And, no one's getting out of this alive. We're all going to die at some point, somehow, some way. Our time's all going to be expired somehow, some way, at some point. And you just get to ask yourself how you want to feel about the life that you created when you're on your figurative or literal deathbed and you're looking back and you're confronting your own mortality. Are you going to be fulfilled by and proud of the life that you lived, the risks that you took or didn't take, the conversations you had or didn't have, the boldness that you allowed yourself to experience or not? And I know that the main thing that most people experience when they get to the end of their rope before they transition back into the light is regret, because it's a dance with their ego. It's like the ego doesn't go with them into the light. Ego stays here in this realm. And then the body is complete. It's done. But our energy transitions and it moves on, and then it expands, and then maybe it chooses to come back here and continue to do the thing all over again. Who knows? But I know that most people, the majority of people, have regret when they get to the end of their life. And I don't want that for anyone. I want people to feel so fulfilled and so complete. And if I were to die right now, cancel, not going to happen. I don't need this to prove this universe. But if it were to happen, I would feel so fulfilled with the life that I have created. Because I decided to that thing that I would have never even considered or thought of being a singer. Are you kidding me? If I'd gotten to the end of my life and I didn't take action on that because I freaking believed that I couldn't sing, oh my gosh, because you connect to the true essence of who you are as you're about to transition, and you're like, oh my gosh, I literally could have done X, Y, and Z, but I didn't because I believe that I can't A, B, C. And I know that if people give themselves permission to deep dive into their awareness, deep dive into their leadership, remove those blocks, see what's in their blind spots so they can live a full throttle life, then that's freedom. And I want everybody to experience that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of what my new book, Dream Tethering, is about. But I've also found that a lot of leaders and people like that, they're overcompensating for something, and you get to the top of the ladder, you're a billionaire or something, but that soul ache is still there. And if you don't address that, then you are going to be feeling empty and, up at the top. And I think the counter to that is really service in some regard. Like, my writing is my service to the world. I have two more questions for you, but what's the relationships between emotional intelligence and manifestation in your experience?
Everything. I mean, literally everything. It's the being able to identify what's true, what's not true, being able to have awareness around who you authentically are and the ego conversation. If you can start to tap into that, then you become a different frequency. You start to vibrate a different frequency. If you're like, oh, well, that really mean thing that I just said to myself, that's not true, because who I authentically am is a loving, committed, powerful leader who's here to be in contribution to humanity, who can literally do anything. I am a money magnet. I can attract incredible, magnificent experiences because of who I'm here to be in this world. And I am directly connected to God at all times. If you can interrupt that emotional toxicity that happens when the ego is simply just trying to keep you safe and the ego does not want you to take risks. The ego does not want you to have anything but absolute, for sure, 100% X, Y, and Z is guaranteed, because the ego wants to look good at all times. The ego wants to be right. The ego wants to be comfortable. The ego does not want your inner child to experience embarrassment or shame or abandonment ever again. And especially to not be kicked out of the tribe. You get kicked out of the tribe hundreds of years ago, that meant death. You're not going to be able to take care of yourself out in the wild world. So our ego believes that not being accepted, not being approved of, means absolute, complete obliteration. And our ego is meant for our survival. And we created this grown-up around the time that we were the most hurt, our most painful moments. We created this version of ourselves to protect us, because maybe the person we looked up to, our hero, our mom, our dad, our older cousin, our uncle, whatever, abused us in some way or forgot about us in some way or did something to us that had us feel completely not protected by the very people who were supposed to protect us. So we create this other version of ourselves to protect us, so we never experience that again. And that's when our magic, our vitality, our outrageousness, our loudness, our craziness, our child starts to dim its light. And so we must be radically aware of the source of our emotions, the triggers, where the triggers are actually coming from. Oftentimes, it's not because of the event that we're experiencing or the breakdown conversation that we're having. It's oftentimes activating something that reminds us of another event in our life. And we've got to be able to discern what is what. Sometimes water is wet and rocks are hard. It's that simple. And we make it so much bigger than what it actually is. And I know that if people are not able to identify those parts of themselves, then they're just going to get in the way. The only thing that's blocking the money that you want is yourself. It's not the way that the economy is right now. It's not the oversaturated market. It's not your spouse's fault. It's just like, what are you allowing in your life? How are your values being negotiated? How are you setting aside the things that are most important to you because you want to make people comfortable? You don't want to be a burden. You don't want to impose. You don't want to, it's like, no, you get to be all of everything that you are and fully expressed. And that's also what I want for everybody as well.
I lied. I have 2 questions left, but the next one will be, I'll make it somewhat concise. And I've asked this to quite a few leaders who I've had on the podcast. In a sentence or a paragraph, what do you think is leadership?
Leadership is purpose expressed day by day, moment by moment, when the lights are off, when the cameras aren't rolling, when nobody's watching. In challenging moments, when your emotions are triggered or activated, you still do what's right in your heart. You're willing to fall on your sword. You're willing to not be liked. You're willing to be unpopular. You're willing to be talked about. You're willing to have your name be dragged through the mud because you're standing for something that's bigger than you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your 17-year-old self who just came out of that coma?
This is the best thing that's ever happened for you. You may not see it or understand it right now, but you've been given a second chance to be a leader, to create something that matters, something that's going to live well beyond your years on this planet. And nobody else can create it for you. It depends upon you, your level of follow through and commitment. And you're more than enough. There's nothing to prove.
Beautiful. I would say you've definitely had some guardian angels or energies lighting the way and the path for you.
Indeed.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you? And also on Spotify, you should definitely check out her music on Spotify. It's very empowering.
Thank you. Jenna Phillips Ballard everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, website, Spotify. I'm super easy to find because I'm the only Jenna Phillips Ballard in the entire universe. There are a lot of Jenna Phillipses, a lot of Jenna Ballards, but the one, the only Jenna Phillips Ballard, I'm super easy to find. So definitely please check out my website, check out my music, find me on Instagram. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you all. And thank you so much for your time today. It was great to see you, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you. I think I might be coming to Austin soon. We'll I'll find that out, but I'll let you know. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks everybody for listening. Again, if you want to follow, I'm The Real Tim Shields. That's the website, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that jazz. This podcast is on all platforms, so you can watch it or listen, etc. Until next time, folks, you might as well listen to her words and be a leader and follow your truth.